All right, so welcome to another brand new podcast designed for the life, insurance, and everything in between Facebook group where we talk about all kinds of stuff. And we're introducing today, without any flashy graphics, music, or stuff that I don't know how to do, the Wild Pitch podcast. I think is the working name for what we're working on doing.
I love this name.
Yeah, good. I spent all week and most of my coffee and creativity trying to come up with something to freaking call this thing. And I'm thinking, should we do like a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania constitutional kind of theme? Nothing came out. Should we talk about it like finally, wild pitch in the process of the week? It becomes.
I love it. I love the play on the idea of pitching. You know, I love everything about this. So yeah, I'm all in.
And then it gets difficult because I've already used double play, which would have been good because you're selling final expense and Medicare in the same house. Nope, I already used that one.
It would have been ideal. This is the problem with becoming a podcast mogul. You know, all your good ideas get used up early. You got to come up with new good ideas.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll have an entire valuetainment channel full of different podcasts and shows for people to watch, and we won't have to sell a damn thing.
A whole network.
So we wanted to talk about today. Basically, the whole concept of the podcast is Medicare from a final expense perspective. We're like an agent that leads with life products, learning to integrate Medicare, a producer-focused conversation, not an influencer-focused fluff kind of deal. Like two people that actually do this or learning this, that kind of perspective is what we're looking for today, right?
Yeah. Secret of the insurance influencer industry. Almost none of the people that are making these types of videos actually sell insurance. Shh, don't tell
anybody. I think that's probably what pissed us off the most, to say, let's set aside
really
3 minutes a week to make sure that actual salespeople talk about this business, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll let you lead off. Do people know who we are? Should we introduce ourselves?
Well, to a few folks, maybe 160 at this point, or maybe 200. Nick, why don't you introduce yourself? Let somebody know who's never seen you before, which would be kind of strange, who you are and why they should listen to anything that you're saying. Did I lose you there for a second?
My stream has gone down. I don't know if it hang on. Are we there?
I can see you, but you're moving in slow
Technical
motion.
difficulties on my side, or technical difficulties for everybody? That's frustrating.
Let's try this again. We're going to give Nick a chance to get back into the stream. I'm going to add him back, and maybe it'll work the way it's supposed to. Nick, are you live again?
I seem to be, yeah. It's technical difficulties for just me, I guess.
Okay, well, the 160 people who knew who we were immediately X'd out of the box as soon as you disappeared. But we'll try this again if they're still possibly watching. Nick, who are you, and why should people listen to anything you have to say?
So I'm Nick Frumkin. I have been selling both Medicare and final expense life insurance products since 2013. Oh my God, that's 10 years now. Holy cow. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. I sell both a lot of Medicare and a lot of final expense. I am a regular in the field producer working every single day. This is my actual job. This is how I make a living and feed my family. And I do work with a handful of agents, teaching them specifically how, if you are not a Medicare first agent, like if your goal in life is not to primarily sell Medicare, you've got a main line of business, kind of teaching you how to integrate Medicare into your regular workflow. I've been doing that since 2019. I've been helping people with that. Chris and I used to be on a different YouTube show together that people liked for a little while.
Yeah.
But that was back a long time ago now.
Well, in the world now where TV shows don't have to be 24 episodes, where you could have those short run series, I think it's okay. We were the pioneers of a short run series, or as they would call on HBO, a limited run series.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. I love that.
they already know from the very beginning this is only going 2 seasons, so no one has to cry when they decide to wrap it up right at 2 seasons.
Yeah, no,
Um,
that's perfect. That's
but,
exactly that's exactly what it was.
but we want to
Um,
talk about practical experience. Your practical experience selling Medicare, and then I guess
mhm.
from there, why you have to give it time before you really see the fruits of your labor.
Well, it's the way Medicare pays, right? Like, so the value of Medicare. And I was talking to, I was actually talking to Peter Walker about this, who you work with, who I do not work with, but who is a good guy. Um, and we were talking a few months ago. The, the real value of Medicare is in the long-term income. For a brand new agent, it almost doesn't make sense. It almost doesn't make sense to be completely Medicare focused, because the way Medicare pays is you get a very small amount of money upfront, and they will lump it all together for you. But you're really getting $25.75 a month for every policy that you sell. And when you first sell a policy, they'll lump it all together for you into one kind of first year commission lump sum. They will prorate it, so you're only getting $25.75 per month for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they'll lump it together if they've never had a Medicare Advantage plan before. And this is speaking specifically of Medicare Advantage. Medicare supplements is kind of a different thing we can talk about, but it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of the same idea. Um, they'll give you a bonus if they've never had a Medicare Advantage plan before. They'll double your first year commission. They won't prorate it. They'll give you the whole thing. But your income doesn't look like much
Mm-hmm.
in that first year. Your first year income is going to be, even if you do a ton, you're going to make like $30,000. But Medicare renews at 100%. You have a 100% renewal on Medicare. And with Medicare Advantage, that's a lifetime renewal. For as long as they're on your book of business, you get that $25.75 a month. And so that doesn't sound like very much, but it builds amazingly rapidly. If you write 300 people, you are going to start seeing a renewal base of just under $100,000 in most states. Some states pay a little more. You're going to start seeing a renewal base of $100,000. You're going to start getting checks for, I don't know. I don't know the exact amount off the top of my head. $25.75 times 300 every month. And that's significant. 300 people isn't that many people, but you don't start getting those renewals until January 1st of the next year,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's really that January 1st of the next year where things start to make sense. And things make even more sense once you have a couple of years stacked on. So I always try to tell agents, you want to give it a 3-year commitment, because you're going to be writing business that first year and you're not going to be making that much money. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get your renewals from the business that you wrote that first year, and you're going to be getting your advances on new business in the second year. And it's not going to still seem like that much money, because you're only going to be getting this small renewal amount, and then you're going to be getting the lump sum advance, and they're not like lining up, and you're not really getting much. And then the third year, you've got 2 years worth of renewals now, plus the lump sum advance. And that's when it starts to feel like, oh, this is actually now, like, I'm not just making $800 a month in renewals, or I'm not just making $1,000 a month in renewals. I'm making now, $2, 3, 4, $5,000 a month in renewals, because my renewals have stacked, plus the lump sum. Now I'm also making an extra $1,000 a month in initial payments. That's when it starts to feel like, oh, this is a possibility of making real money. I see so many agents give up before they get to that point, because they're like, I'm just not making enough money at this.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't put the time and energy in to focus on building their book of business. As life insurance agents, we are always so focused on that first year commission and
Yeah.
chasing that first year commission. And to this day, agents who have been working with me for years still talk about Medicare in terms of first year commission. They'll even say things to me like, "Oh, somebody lapsed their policy. I'm going to go rewrite them. I'll get that first year commission all over again." That is the wrong way to think about it. You only want to think about the number of people that are on your book of business with Medicare. The only thing that matters is the size of your book.
I love on the United Healthcare site, it's got like a little thing at the corner that tells you how many people you have.
Yes.
Freaking brilliant. Freaking
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it makes it so easy. And the carriers that sell Medicare really do understand this. Like every website, they're not all as well designed.
Yeah,
United Healthcare really has a good website.
it sure does.
They're not all as well designed as United Healthcare, but they all make it really easy to find your whole book of business.
Yeah. The Devoted website, not at all sexy, makes it pretty simple. Click,
Makes it
click.
very easy.
Like, I am not very tech savvy. Like maybe you might think that if you're watching this, I'm not the smartest crane in the box, but I can get on and figure out who's still enrolled in Devoted. Appreciate it. Thank you. It can't be that complicated. But then you got some final expense carrier sites that I'm like, I don't even care. I can't find it. This is too much effort. I'm getting angry at my computer, whatever. At least most, even Cigna for brokers, not that user friendly, not that pretty. I found people. I can show my virtual assistant where the people are. There we go. There they are.
Yeah, the carriers understand it, and they make that like the easiest thing that you can do on all of their websites, no matter how badly designed their websites are, and some of them are not good. But like you talk about like final expense renewals, and listen, I make a lot of money in final expense renewals. I'm coming up to $2.8 million of life insurance, like final expense life insurance written. I make a lot of money in final expense renewals. It is a tiny fraction of what I make in terms of Medicare renewals. I've written many multiples fewer lives for Medicare than I have for final expense.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's a whole different ballgame. And it's a thing that people have a hard time like internally understanding until they've done it. And then like without fail, they're always like, "Oh, now I get it." Like 3 years in, but it takes 3 years.
So let's talk about an average final expense agent who writes 3 to 5K a week. Like they're sustainable numbers. They're nothing sexy. They're not industry movers, but they're right now doing a pretty good job writing 3 to 5K a week. And they're writing 3 to 5 Medicare Advantage enrollments over the course of that same week. We're not counting like new to Medicare, true ups, nothing fancy, just 3 to 5 Medicare clients over the course of the week. Nick, I don't know if you fell into the oblivion of bad buffering for a moment there, but if you're with me, explain what that would look like. 3 to 5K in final expense, 3 to 5 Medicare Advantage enrollments, 3 years later.
If you're doing 3 to 5 Medicare Advantage enrollments a week, listen, if you're doing 3 to 5 Medicare Advantage enrollments a week, you are one of the top Medicare Advantage producers in the industry. The internet will not necessarily make you feel that way. It will definitely not make you feel that way. But let's say it's 3 a week, right?
Very average number.
Yeah, but that's putting 156 people on the books a year, not doing anything extra for like AEP or not going like hard or like ever, just doing your thing, doing the regular stuff. That's, it's 156 people a year. Let's take a look at that 3-year number that we talked about. So that's 468 people on your books at the end of 3 years. Let's say you lose some of it. You're going to lose a little bit. You're not going to lose a lot. Medicare is surprisingly sticky. But let's say you are really bad at retention and you lose 20%, right? So let's take 90 people off that 468 number. So you've got 378 people left at the end of 3 years. You have a renewal base of $113,000 a year. If you're writing 3 people a week, that's not doing anything crazy.
And I would gander to say most final expense agents aren't making $113,000 a year, no matter what social media may tell you.
No, they're definitely not. The average final expense life insurance agent And I don't know. This may not be the people who are watching this. I feel like sometimes the people who are watching this are a little bit more elite than the average, but
Yeah.
the average final expense agent makes $40,000 a year. That's industry average across the United States. It's a
Yeah.
$40,000 a year job for most people. It shouldn't be. You shouldn't do this if you're only making $40,000 a year.
Please.
Any insurance, any like commission sales, you should not do for $40,000 a year.
It's not
But
worth the stress of it and the
no.
liability and the tax implications and all that in between.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like there's so many other jobs you could do for $40,000 a year that would be so much more low key.
Yeah.
But
Let's talk for a moment about the fact that Medicare is in many senses the anti-MLM product. Like the big three-letter IMOs of the industry aren't teaching and preaching this as much because many of these products don't have 9 layers built into it and 10-point spreads and take it down by fives and 2.5s. In fact, some of these carriers, especially the regional ones, you literally have to be paid by the FMO to even get paid because that's how it's designed. So why
yeah,
is this product such an anti-MLM aspect of our industry?
honestly, because it's really heavily regulated, which is it is to our it helps us and it hurts us. You know, it makes it more complicated to sell, and regulations are actually increasing. Come October of that, we're recording this in May of 2023. Come October of this year, regulations are actually it's going to be more heavily regulated. There are going to be more hoops you have to jump through. Um, but also, to get a recruiting contract with with a Medicare Advantage plan is almost this like catch-22 type of a situation. You can't get a contract where you can recruit unless you've already recruited enough agents that are producing that you can get that contract. And it becomes this weird like snake eating its tail thing where like unless you've got an agency that's ready to rock and roll, it becomes very difficult to get any kind of level, like to be making and like overrides on Medicare are not great if you're like just right. If you just want to have a couple of guys underneath of you, you're not going to make a lot of money. You don't really make money on those overrides. Um, there are levels you can get up. There are people who do make quite a lot of money on overrides, but you need to have both bodies and production.
Yeah.
And the carriers don't just give those out. It's not like with life insurance where there's 140% contracts that are out there for anybody who can figure out how to get them. Um, it doesn't exist that way. Like your commissions as a Medicare agent, they're going to be street for everybody, and street is mandated by the federal government. It's $301 per app.
Mhm.
Again, unless you're in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey, California, or Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C. Um, it's all, there's no subjectivity there. There's no, some people get more, some people get less. Everybody gets the same.
Yeah.
And like bonuses are illegal. Carrier trips are illegal.
That's a
There's all
shame.
sorts of stuff that can't really be done.
That's a shame.
Um, you know, and like, hey, listen, there's ways around all of this, but for the most part, you're not getting Joe down the street figuring out like how to package marketing money together in such a way that you can like kind of co-op extra bonus money for people and like figure out a way to kind of backdoor a trip to them and stuff like that. Like most people aren't doing that stuff. So you're not getting the masses of like, hey, go tell your hairdresser to go sell some life insurance on the side and they can build a team of 20 people and they'll make $100,000 a year and they don't have to do anything. It doesn't exist. I mean, that just doesn't exist for Medicare.
Yeah. That's also not true for final expense or for mortgage protection. That's just simply also not true.
No, but there are people who there are companies that built their entire business model off of like I can
Yeah.
think of one very prominent buy term and sell the different invest the difference company that like that's their business model is,
Yeah,
go tell go tell your kid's high school teacher, go tell your hairdresser, go whoever to like start recruiting their friends and
makes
build them
sense.
under you, you know.
Can
But
we dispel some common Medicare myths in the last few minutes that we do have? Like,
yeah,
it's too hard to get licensed. You don't, a common myths that you think people might be holding them back from actually doing this.
yeah, sure. um Getting a license is not hard. One, if you've got if you've got a life insurance license, go get health licensed. Like, it's just good to have. Like, you can't sell accidental death if you don't have a health license. Like go get a health license. What are you doing? Um, so go get health licensed. It's not that hard. It really isn't. It'll help you in your own life. You probably need health insurance. Wouldn't you like to understand how health insurance works? Um, so yeah, go get a health license. AHIP is easy. People rip their hair out about how hard AHIP is, and compared to some other certification tests, I mean, it's harder than like an anti-money laundering test, but it's not hard. You can knock it out in a weekend. Um,
I need to take an entire month to do AHIP, carrier certifications, recontracting, and getting ready to get ready. I did the whole month of September, July, part of June, maybe even early October. I just have to be at my desk getting ready to get ready. Help me
no,
with
you definitely don't.
it.
No, you
Do
don't.
it.
Okay, I mean, listen, if you're brand new, you've never done this before, I really do. Like, I tell my agents, I want you to go through the slides. I want you to read everything. I want you to kind of wrap your head around some of this stuff before we start getting into training. But even then, man, I don't want you taking a month. Holy cow. Um, the one thing that is real is contracting itself takes a long time. This is not active time on your part. This is like if you are cooking a Thanksgiving turkey. Cooking a Thanksgiving turkey takes like 5-6 hours. But most of that time is you have stuck it in the oven and now you are waiting for the turkey to be ready. Right? You're not like standing over the oven for 5 or 6 hours. You're like hanging out, like watching a football game or something. Um, Contracting takes a while. You want to like give yourself 3 months to get contracted and ready to sell. But beyond that, man, like AHIP will take a weekend, maybe. Carrier certifications take like 20 minutes each, maybe. Um, you know, Contracting paperwork on your part, if your IMO knows what they're doing, you probably have to spend 5 minutes on.
Yeah. I think it's a lot easier than people give it credit for. It's not nearly as in-depth as people make it out to be. And I think I've written down a bunch of
Oh,
notes and stuff we can tackle later, like how to vet an FMO, who should I actually be listening to? How do I know if this influencer is actually selling what they're talking about? There's just so many other things that we can talk about. Thankfully, this isn't the only time that we're talking about this Medicare thing as we talk about our new Medicare podcast. So, in the last minute we have left, Nick, talk to somebody that stayed the entire video on why listening to the right people is important when it comes to Medicare growth, sales, producing, etc.
because there's just so much bad advice out there. Um, Especially if your main line is not Medicare, especially if what you are going to be doing is not leading with Medicare. The traditional advice on how to sell Medicare and Medicare Advantage products, and man, we haven't even gotten into supplements. We will. I really want
Yeah,
to, but the traditional advice on how to approach everybody for Medicare, if you are not spending 100% of your time focused on Medicare, is terrible advice. It is time wasting. It will take money out of your pocket. It will keep you from being as productive as you want to be. And you will spend that entire first 3 years while you are building your book poor.
yeah,
You do not have to. It'll still be 3 years, right? You will still get to that place in 3 years where in 3 years you are making really good money. If you listen to the traditional advice, it does work, but you are going to be hand to mouth the entire time. And there's no reason for that, especially if you already have an established insurance practice. Don't abandon what you're doing and what already is working and is feeding your family and paying your bills. Like that's silly. But most people who talk to you about Medicare on the internet and at most FMOs have never sold anything successfully ever, do not understand any product other than Medicare, no matter what they tell you, and have really old-fashioned ideas as to the best way to approach clients.
Yeah.
Like, man, listen, seminars work. They really work. But they're not the type of thing that somebody who's got a working final expense or life insurance business should be spending time on. They're just not. You shouldn't be, unless you want to actually volunteer at a soup kitchen because you are a good person who does that sort of thing. You shouldn't be like hanging out at your local soup kitchens to try and there's just so much stuff that you like it's silly for you to try and spend thousands of hours and hundreds of dollars to develop relationships with doctors and pharmacists. This is all stuff that will work and you will sell Medicare, but man, it is.
Talk about this.
There are easier ways.
Yeah, like you're trying to get a Bath and Body Works candle to set down your house on fire by trying to do it that way.
Yeah, there's just easier ways,
Yeah.
If all you're doing is Medicare, there maybe aren't easier ways. Like those are great ways if like you do nothing but Medicare. But you have so many other options available to you.
Yeah. Outstanding. Well, I think we got a lot to talk about. We've got the time set aside to do it. We just need you to like, comment, and subscribe so YouTube shows this video to people who don't even know that it's there. And we know that someone besides the dog behind me and the dog in front are watching today's video. Appreciate
comment
Nick.
too. Let us know what you want us to talk about. I plan on reading all of these comments and using them to build future talking points.
Absolutely. Like, even if you didn't agree, even if you think we're incorrect, like any kind of interaction increases the algorithm and tells us what you want us to talk about as we sit down on a Friday morning and continue to bring this content to you. And I think we pretty much have matching dogs that are watching the video anyway. So what's your favorite dog? Comment about that. We don't care. Interaction increases the algorithm. Alrighty, Nick, I'll make sure to have this video up today, assuming we can find a good thumbnail that makes us both look worthy of YouTube. And we'll be back next week to do it again.
All right. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. See ya.